My name is Angel. I live in Bismarck and I'm a peer sports specialist. I feel like I spent like my whole life like conforming to the idea of what everybody wanted me to be, that I didn't really know what I liked or who I was. So since I got into sobriety, that's kind of been the journey that I've been on. It's just trying new hobbies, trying new things, and figuring out like what I actually enjoy doing. So it's been a journey. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous and then I go to like Emotions Anonymous, which is cool because at the root of our addictions, like it's because most of the time we can't deal with our emotions. So it's cool. We kind of adopted the AA steps and applied it to emotions. It surprised me that I am an introvert. Like I recharge being on my own, you know? Like I can go hang out around people and interact and whatever, but then I'm like, all right, I need to go watch Netflix, hide in my room, listen to music, and just chill. I didn't grow up with very stable people in my life. My mom had her struggles with addiction and mental health, and so I didn't really have like role models, healthy, stable role models. And then I met my biological dad when I was 17 and he was in active addiction. And it was hard because I was very much that judgmental person that just didn't understand addiction. I remember always saying like, you have kids, just don't do drugs. You know, and in my head it was that simple until I struggled with addiction myself and I was like, oh, it's not that simple. Like it's deeper than that. It just was very unstable just because my mom like had her struggles with mental health and she wasn't a very, I love my mom, so she just wasn't stable. And then like my grandma is my best friend, but she deals with mental health as well. My grandma and my stepdad were probably the most stable people that I had in my life. I wasn't in the home with them, you know, so they weren't right there all the time. So the adults in my life, like I was learning and taking after them, and that's what I thought a human was, you know, what you're supposed to do. I first started using when I was 12. I experimented, you know, as most kids do, and I hated it. I was like, nope, not doing that. So I still didn't understand addiction, obviously, because I was able to just not. I remember when I was younger, I would always like tell my mom, like, I'm gonna try everything at least once, but not meth and heroin because I'm not going to use needles. And being 12, I thought that was the only way to use meth and heroin. Experimented when I was younger, and then that was really it. I got pregnant at 16, so then I was a mom. You know, fast forward, I was 21. I was dealing with like a lot of kidney issues when I was pregnant with my twins, and my doctor started prescribing Percocet. But I wasn't an addict because the doctor was prescribing it, you know, like that was my mindset. And then that went on until I was 23. And then I started meth and heroin and I started shooting up. I was right off to the races. When I first started, it was like the best thing ever, you know, like this is the solution to all of my problems. And I remember saying like, why doesn't everybody use drugs? Like this is amazing, you know? Obviously, very quickly I realized why not everybody uses drugs. Within a year, I lost all my kids, I lost my house, my car, was in a super abusive relationship, you know, like I imploded my entire life in a very, very short time using. My rock bottom had very, very many basements, lots of basements. I definitely just kept digging. So I lost everything, and then I was slowly able to like get a new house, get a new car. I was able to get my younger 3 kids back in my life, but I was still using. And I kind of came to a point where I realized like I'm doing the same thing again and again and again and again. You know, like I'm in a different situation, in a different relationship, I'm in a different house, but I'm still feeling empty. I'm still putting myself in the same situations, just different people, different surroundings. And I was like, oh, I'm the common denominator. Like I might be the problem. Kind of rock bottom was my younger 3 kids. My oldest is with her dad, right? My younger 3 oldest, different dads. She was gone. I wasn't able to see her. My younger 3 were kind of starting to come back into my life. They were staying at my house one day. It was my son's birthday. And I remember like waking up in the morning and all I cared about was getting high. That was it. Like I didn't care that it was their birthday. I didn't care that I was able to wake up with my kids for the first time in 9 months, you know? I just cared about getting high. So I remember like I loaded them all in the car, brought them over to their dad's house and dropped them off, and I came home. And so during my whole time of using, I was very much like, God's not real. Screw that guy, you know? But I had like a spiritual experience is what we call it, like in AA. So I walked into my house and like I have a shot in my hand, trying to get high, but I'm like, I don't really want to do this. I'm pacing back and forth of my house, like screaming screaming at God, like out loud, like screaming at God. I'm like, why aren't you answering? Like, why can't you hear me? Like, what is happening? And that was my, like, I just like asked for help. And my grandma had gotten me a Bible a couple years back, and I don't know still to this day how it ended up at my new house. But it was like barely hanging out of the bookshelf, and I was like, does it have to be God though? Like, does this have to be the answer? And I opened it to John 13:7. It just was exactly what I needed to hear at the time. And then I was like, all right, ready for recovery. Like, I'm ready to do whatever. But then I needed to test that. You know, obviously I need to test God. I need to test that just happened. So I got high, and it did absolutely nothing. Like, I hated it. Like, it did nothing. So then I got sober for a month. That was it, just a month. And then a month later, I got an opportunity to see my oldest daughter again for the first time in a long time. And it was very like emotionally driven. So I acted crazy, honestly. Like, I just didn't act how a mom or anybody should act. But I had a moment of like realization that my daughter is growing up exactly the way that I grew up. She was being raised by her grandma and her dad, and mom was out doing whatever mom was doing, you know? And I had like that realization that if I wanted her to live a different life, like I needed to be better and show her better and do different. So I drove home. We were at McDonald's Play Place. I drove home that day, and I looked over at the person that I was with, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm done using. And he was like, Angel, addiction doesn't work like that. Like, you can't just decide you're done and you're done. And I'm like, I'm done. And that was the last time I got high. It was scary. And I don't want to say that and like deter people from finding recovery, but it's the reality of it. Like, it was scary because I had to strip away everything that I had been my entire life, just go into myself and decide like who I was, who I wanted to be, and who I no longer wanted to be. Like, I went to anger management for 16 weeks because I just was a ball of anger and I didn't know how to deal with it. But then like when I got into the rooms, like AA, I don't think I did EA right away, but AA. Went through a couple sponsors because I didn't want to listen to anything they were telling me, you know. As I was doing the work, like miracles started to happen within that first year. Like, I got 50-50 custody back with my oldest daughter, who I thought I was going to have supervised visits for the rest of my life, you know. My younger 3 are home, you know, like, I got a really good job that I love, you know, my house, my car. Like, I built a community of people that I had been looking for my whole life. It was scary and it was hard, but it was probably like the most freeing and rewarding year of my life thus far. Well, I go to therapy every week. My therapist is my best friend. I do not miss that appointment ever. I'm still very active in both AA and EA, but I think the biggest thing is just like the community and support system that I built that first year. Like, that is what holds me together, you know. Like, when I like that, and it's like the accountability, you know, and it's being able to pick up a phone and being like, hey, like, I'm struggling, this is what's going on, and they can get me out of my head and just help me through that. EA specifically, like the people in the EA group, like, they are my family. Like, I love them to pieces. AA, I have those relationships, but I feel like EA is a lot smaller, so you kind of build better bonds with them because it's a smaller group, and you talk about more than just your addiction, so you kind of connect on a deeper level with them. April 9th of 2023, so however long that is. I think it's like 19 months, or 18 months on the 9th of October, yeah, so. So there's a couple things that I tell like women specifically. When I was first getting sober, I heard in the rooms like I wasn't a bad mom, I was a sick mom. I think if I would have heard that sooner in like before I found recovery, I would have found it earlier because I wouldn't have been consumed by that guilt and that shame and like been stuck in that cycle, you know. But then I also tell them like you're never too far gone to create a beautiful life for yourself. You can start your life over tomorrow. I know when I was struggling, like I just thought like that was it for me, you know, like there was no hope, and there's always hope, you know, like you've never messed up too bad to start over, like, and be able to come back. And it's kind of cool over here on this side.